Good evening, good morning, evening, maybe, just afternoon. Good afternoon to the members of the committee. If it's March, I must be testifying. So, my name is William Curlew. I'm a resident of Windsor. I have submitted electronic testimony on all 7 bills. I am, just as a quick recap, I am for the regulation of firearms, not able to regulate firearms in the municipality. I am for being able to carry a firearm, a permitted person carrying a firearm in a state park. And I am for the transfer of assault weapons and large capacity magazines until such time as the Supreme Court actually makes a correct ruling and voids that law entirely. So the other 4 bills, I'm going to take them in order of the notes that I've made. The first one I'm going to talk about is concerning the presentation of a carry permit. Supreme Court ruled in Florida versus JL 529 U.S. 266 2000 that there is no firearm exception to the 4th Amendment. And there are, in my testimony that I've submitted electronically, there are 10 other sightings of that conclusion from various circuit courts, 2nd, 3rd, 10th Circuit, and multiple state courts. It is unconstitutional to ask for the permit unless you have reasonable articulable suspicion. That is federal law. That has been upheld by the state court. If Connecticut decides to pass this law, the first person that gets arrested for refusing to do his permit has the opportunity to sue the state. And I just think that's dumb. And I also believe that profiling is a real problem. I was appalled by the testimony of the Bridgeport police chief who talked about the climate and how that people with firearms were inherently dangerous. I found that incredibly offensive as a firearms owner for the better part of 50 years. So that's my thing on SB 60. Storage of a firearm in a motor vehicle. A locked car, if it's locked, is a secure location, and it's actually harder to get into than a lot of these gun safes. Not impossible, obviously not that bad. But my issue here is this law, as well as some parts of the safe storage law, what we have done is we've said we've been unable to deter criminals from stealing firearms. And the reason we're unable to deter them is right in your case statistics from the Legislative Research Office that shows that about 60% of the time, we not only actually for gun theft, it's 72%. 72% of the time, the charge of gun theft gets nollied, which means a criminal, 1 in 4 chance of getting prosecuted. Now you put that, you say, well, we can't deter the criminal, let's put the deterrence on the legal gun owner by making him deterrent.
Mr. Curlew, if you could summarize.
I'm pretty much done. Ghost guns, man, we talked about that for like 40 minutes last year, so, you know.
Yes. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming in. You were holding up and referencing some type of legislative research document. What is that?
This is the research document, actually it was cited earlier today, Case Statistics for Firearms-Related Offenses. It was produced by Michelle Kirby, the Senior Legislative Attorney, January 23rd, 2018. The Office of Legislative Research docket number is 2018-R-0018. This is a compendium of statistics about firearms-related offensive for the fiscal years 2013 to 2017. So it's a 5-year spread. Obviously, 2018 they haven't done yet.
Okay, thank you. With regard, is there anything in that research that you interpret to affect in any way the bill regarding allowing people who have already registered certain firearms to transfer them amongst themselves?
I will say that illegally, for instance, there's a illegally transferring a pistol or revolver, Connecticut statutes 29-33, 66.6% of the time, across that 5 years, those charges dropped. They're nollie. So even if we had laws about that, we're not enforcing them. So we're not getting the deterrent effect we need because we don't enforce the laws we already have. Criminals know that a real criminal will just make a deal. Well, drop that, drop that, drop that, because a lot of these charges carried mandatory minimums, and that's why they got dropped. So it really seems like what's been happening is there's been a sea change where we tried to put legislation together to deter criminals from doing criminal acts for the fear of punishment. That didn't work. So now we try to stop them by putting the onus on the legal gun owner, who we think we have more control over, and who is, more afraid of running afoul because he wants to be a legal citizen. He wants to do the right thing. So it's the tenor of these laws is really starting to get to us legal gun owners, because we can see that what's been happening is, well, we can't stop guys from stealing your guns, so you stop guys from stealing your guns. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right, well, one of the things that I get a lot is people come to me and say, we need to increase the penalty for whatever crime, for X, for this violation, we need to increase the penalty. And I always ask them, well, do you know whether or not the law is being enforced at the current penalty? Because if it's not, you would think that that it's an enforcement problem, not a penalty problem. Would you think that we would have a better outcome for the people of the state if we enforced the current law?
Absolutely. The object of the game is you don't get deterrence if there's no consequence. There has to, the whole theory of deterrence is that the consequence is there at the end of the crime. If you've got a 1 in 3 chance or a 1 in 4 chance of actually even having the charge stick, and you're a criminal, man, them are great odds. I mean, you take that to the casino any day. And they're just not gonna pay attention. They're just gonna keep doing stuff.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there others? Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for your testimony, and thank you for bringing that OLR report up and giving us the number. I did have a chance to reference that, and was it 11 pages?
Yeah.
I'm looking at page 3 where it indicates the amount of people that have been arrested for carrying a pistol or revolver without a permit, which is
Yes.
part of what we've been discussing here today.
Yes.
And I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm reading this that there was 500 arrests in 2017 for that, and more than half of them were nollied. So 252 cases, and 32 of them were dismissed. Is that what you're seeing also?
Yeah.
And,
It's pretty scary. I ended up bringing that into a spreadsheet and doing the averages across the entire period, so that you don't have that benefit. But yeah, if you can do the head math real fast, it's really it's pretty scary. It's 50.02% across from 20, and they have stats from 2013 all the way to 2017. It is one of the top 3 or 4 offenses, actually, if you go by the number of occurrences. Those 600 numbers, those are big numbers.
Yeah,
and it's up over 600 every single year.
And also wanted to ask you, on page 6, there's illegal possession of a large capacity magazine. I don't know, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but this indicates that in 2017 there were 105 arrests, and 86 of those were nollied. 7 of those were dismissed. So that's close to 90%.
Yeah, not a great deterrent.
Yeah, and similarly with 2016, with the same line, 111 arrests, 97 nollies, 6 dismissed. So once again, a little over 90% of these cases where people are arrested, they're not even prosecuted. But do you happen to know what the effect, the collateral effect is on these arrests that are are not being prosecuted with regard to pistol permits?
I have no idea.
Okay, so if I was to tell you that people's pistol permits are taken away and they don't get them back for a very long time, although their case was dismissed, that would be news to you?
Yeah, if the case, well, if the case is dismissed, then they get their permit back, right? I
Well,
mean, they
that's-
can go to the board like you used to
They'd
serve
have to have a
on.
hearing on,
Right.
before the board.
Yeah,
And it
and
takes
see
about
if they
two and a
get it
half
back.
years to get a hearing before the
Yeah,
board.
date, yeah.
So if I go to court 2 weeks after I get arrested and my case is dismissed, I can't get a hearing before the board for about 2.5 years.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there others, questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, folks.
We'll hear next from Richard Souza.